Welcome to my workshop. I'm Tina and this is Tina's Workshop. And this week is the new Beetlejuice movie is coming out. And I wanted to do something for that. I love Beetlejuice. And if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you'll know that I do really like Beetlejuice. So I had decided I wanted to do something in a Beetlejuice theme. So we're going to see how this goes. This is my first sketch. I wanted to do a cowl, something I could wear to the movie. So it's gonna come around and join, and it's the sandworms, and in a sense it's eating its own tail, but at the same time the tongue that comes out is also striped. So you still kind of have this whole thing going on. But there's a lot of times you associate this green with Beetlejuice and with the sandworms, and I started looking it up, and in the actual movie it was more of a teal color around the lips, not a green, but it gets remade with green a lot of times. Well, anyway, I worked a chart so most of it's just going to be stripes, and I'm actually going to do it in the garter like this. It's going to make it easier. It's going to be soft and squishy until you get up to this point here, and this part I'm going to work in stockinette and do some color changing. The eyes, I'm going to do button eyes, and then it'll have the little polka dots, and I don't know if I'm going to, I guess I did, okay, so I made a chart. So this is my chart, and it looks funny because, of course, it's on graph paper. And I ended up bringing some black in here and at the top to kind of make that inner mouth look slightly smaller. And then I think I'm going to try and do color work with the red spots. And then when you look at the actual movie, this inner bit is pink, and then you have like a teal out here, and then this one has a teal lining it. So I went through, I'm stash diving, I'm trying to use my stash, still working on that stash. So I found this one that is about the closest I could come, and it's hard, it is a little bit more teal looking than it's showing on here, but it's Caron Simply Soft. The colorway is Blue Mint. So I'm going to use that for that little tiny trim around the mouth, along with a whole bag of yarn here. White, of course, and black. So we need the black and white for the stripes. We need a little bit of pink for the inner part of the inner mouth. So I have this pink, which is called Watermelon. And then for the red, the little red dots, it is called Harvest Red. I have red. And I don't need a lot for that. I do have another skein of it because I have a lot in my stash, but I'm going to use this. So those are all the colors that we're going to use. And then I decided I was going to use, where did I just put it? I just had it. Oh, there it is. Set the yarn on top of it. I'm going to use my size, what are they? They're a US 6, and they're Prim needles, and they are, I believe, let's see, they are 24 inches. They're the ones I use when I do my emotional support chicken. I like the way that this feels, the way this texture came out. So that's why I decided on that. Really technical, but that's why I've decided on that. So also, in working on this, I figured out that I'm going to cast on, what did I figure out? 36, I think. Yeah, 36. I'm going to cast on 36, and I'm going to work the black and white stripes 6 rows each. And so I'm going to keep switching every 6 rows, and I think that should give me a decent little stripe, probably about like this. And then I'm just going to work, basically I'm going to work from, if you look at this drawing, you can see the little lines that I put right there and right there. I'm going to work around like this, and then I'm going to work this. Something like that. I might actually go from back here. I might do that. I might work from here, come around to here, work this piece, and then continue working to here, and then join it back here. That would make more sense. But for this section, I'm just going to be doing 36, knitting every row, changing colors every 6 rows. So that's going to be pretty basic until I get back up to the front part. So hopefully, if all goes well, this is going to work properly, and we'll have a cool Beetlejuice cowl that we can wear for the movie. And then I can wear my Beetlejuice socks and bring my Beetlejuice bag. And we will have all that. All my colors will be a little bit different, considering the fact that my bag is in a pink color, and the socks, which the socks kind of go with the bag because they're both modeled after the Handbook for the Recently Deceased. And this is modeled after the Sandworm, so a bit different, but it's all going to work out. I have faith in myself sometimes. Let me cast this on and I'll be right back. So when you do this, you're going to want to make sure that every time you change colors that you are on the right side of your fabric, so that you don't get a funny little, I don't even know what you would call it. All I know is I've done it on accident before, and your color change is not pretty if it's not on the right side. So make sure, if you need to put a marker on your work so you know which side is which, then do that, because you're going to want to make sure that you're always changing on the right side of your fabric. So I just cast it on my 36, and I worked 1 row. I'm working the 2nd row now, just so that we can have a feel for the width and see if I chose a good width. And I know black yarn's not the funnest thing to work with, but my needles are white, so that should help. And the fact that I'm doing just a garter stitch, it does make the stitches a little bit more easier to work in. Okay, so let's see. So I've worked 2 rows, and there is my piece. So when I wear it as a cowl, that should be good, because I don't want it to be too big and drapey that you can't see the faces, but I also don't want it to be so straight that it's more of a collar. So I think that should hopefully work. If nothing else, we'll have a comfy cowl when we're done. A little piece of fuzz on it. So we're going to work 6 rows of the black, and then we will switch to the white and do 6 rows and keep alternating. I have not decided yet exactly my exact length of this, so I'm going to figure that out as I go, because I'm figuring this whole thing out as I go. I tend to do that a lot, and I've done this for years a lot with crochet, and I have written quite a few patterns too, but knitting was always something that I went by a pattern. I've never been one for really attempting things without a pattern on knitting. So this is one of my first ones. I did that Christmas shawl, but otherwise, yeah, I've never really tried to come up with a knitting thing without a pattern. So we'll see how this goes. Hopefully it goes good. Give me some confidence to try that again. I'm going to continue to work this. I'll get a couple rows in and I'll come back and show you how it looks with the color change. And then I will work till I get to the chart. So I'll be back in just a minute. I guess I did lie about one thing. This yarn is almost entirely from my stash, except that I had run out of white. I had a itty bitty little tiny piece of white, and I wanted to use, I mean, I have white and other yarns, but since all the yarns I was using here is the Caron Simply Soft, if you've used it before, you know there's a difference in this yarn from a regular like Red Heart yarn or something. There is a kind of a shine to it. The thickness is slightly thinner, even though it's still a worsted weight. So I don't really like to use anything with it other than itself. So I did have to go buy my white, but it was on sale. I got it on sale. So that wasn't too bad, and it's a basic white. That's something you use a lot of. So I've changed my color now. I am on the first white row, and you can see how there's a nice little edge when you change it on this right side, but on the wrong side, see the little dotted line? So that's why you want to make sure and change it when you're on the right side each time so that it's consistent and you have a nice clean stripe each time. If you end up doing it on the wrong side, you're going to have that little dotted line, and it makes it messy looking. I did that on one of my emotional support chickens one time and had to tear half the chicken back out when I realized that I had done it, because it looked too bad. I couldn't leave it that way. So I'm extremely careful now since then that I make sure I'm changing my yarn on the right side. So I've got this color change now. I'm going to keep working, doing just the stripes, changing every 6 rows until I get to what I think is going to be about the halfway point. So there's the thickness of the stripes, though. I think that's going to be a nice thickness. So I'll keep working it until I feel like I'm going comfortably from the back of the neck to about here. And then I can do the mouths and then continue around the other side. So I'll work on this for a while, and then I will come back to you when I'm at that point. Okay, so I have gotten 11 inches done, and I figured 11 inches plus another 11 on the other side, and then with the size of this and how many rows I had, I counted the rows on my chart. I should end up somewhere roughly around 29 to 30 inches, which should be perfect size going around my neck. So that being the case, I am ready to start my pattern. So you know already, this was my original design. Then I drew this, but I decided to refine it from this because I kind of sketched this as I did it and I didn't fully count. So my pattern now looks like this, and my numbers are even going in both directions, obviously except for the little red dots because they're just little red dots. So I want to start with a white section at the beginning of the mouth. However, I had it for 1 row here, and I am adding, so the +1 here, I'm adding 1 more row because I want to start on the right side of the work, because I don't want the little color change bumps. Now this is going to all be in stockinette, where this is still in garter. And what I was thinking, as we're going through, if we have a color change, we could always do the stockinette one stitch before, so that as we come, then these are going to all come out then right. So if we do stockinette one stitch before our stitches, then our next row should be fine, as in, you know, the way our color changes are. That's my theory. Don't know how well that's going to work, but that's my theory. So anyway, I am at my ready for my first color change. So I'm doing these 2 blue stitches right here, which are right in the center. So if you're coming this way, it's 18 to the first one, and if you're coming this way, it's 18 to the first one, which makes it easy. Once you've done that first one, then it's easy to tell for your next one. You're doing one before and one after, or vice versa, one before and one after, and the other way. So it should line up each time. So I am going to work those first 2 blue stitches. And we are on the right side, so we are doing knit across this whole thing anyway. So our next stitch, move that tail, it's going to be white, and it will be white all the way across. So we only have the 2 blue in this row. Everything else will be the same as we've been doing it so far. And you just want to remember, if you're not used to doing color work, that you don't pull your floats. Now you could cut your ends and weave them in the whole way. That is totally fine, but there is a right side and a wrong side to this cowl, so if you want to leave floats, you can. I might do 2. I'm just trying to think, because I've got, this is just going to, sorry you can't see that, this is going to create long floats here. The white's okay, you're not going over very far. Or the black, well, this one would be a big section. But like here, working these, you're only going over 1 stitch, so color working is fine, but I think I will do separate strands for the 2 going in the different directions. Okay, so we are coming back now, and we are still working in our garter stitch until we get to our color work section. So, in thinking about this, we should honestly be okay with our color work, I think. Okay, so we're going 1 before, and we're going to bring that to the front because we're purling this. This is still the back of our work though, so this part is not being seen. This will be against our skin. So we're purling. Okay, did I do that right? Yes. So we're going to purl that one, and then we're going to purl our next 2 in white, and then our next one again is going to be a blue, and hold on. we're purling that one. And then we're going to go back to what we've been doing of our, wait, hold on. Need to pay attention to that too. So this one needs to go, actually no, it's still going to have to stay here and then go to the front. Okay. So it's a little tricky. I think once we do enough of it, we'll get the hang of it. I do think it's going to give us a really neat effect. It's just a little fiddly. So let's work down this one and come back and work that next row and then see how it's looking. Fingers crossed this is going to work the way I'm hoping it's going to work. Again, like I said, this is the first time I am like freehanding, in a sense, a knit project. I normally only do this with crochet that I'm very confident in. And then still sometimes I mess up. Okay. Okay, so this time, again, we're going to be one before and one after. And this is our front side, so we will be knitting all the way across. We do not have to switch to purl. And our yarn's all to the back, so that will make that easier too. Okay, so this is one before, and that's out of focus. Sorry. So one before. And pick up our, oh come on, trying to get rid of the tail, there we go. Pick up our knit, and then we will knit the next 4 in white, and our next one will be blue with the second blue. And then back to white the rest of the way across. So I hope this is making sense how we're doing this. Oops. My yarn's getting caught on things. Okay. Almost to the end, and then I'll lay this out. Okay. So we've only just started, so it's harder to see. Let me pull these tails so our yarns are, oh, there we go. So can you see how that is? I mean, like I said, we've only just started, but can you see how this is going to lay flat? So it's going to set down into the piece. So I think though, as we go, so here's what we're doing. So we're right here. Oh, we zoomed in. There we go. Okay, so we're right here, like this, and we're going to continue working like this. So I have 2 blue strips to work 2 separate ones here. So I'm not carrying blue. But when I get to this section here where I have black on either end, I'm going to want to, I think what I'll do is actually do a second black. I'll keep carrying the white through all of this, and I'll have a second black so I can just do black sections here. Then when we get to here, we're going to have black here too, so we'll be using that secondary black as we work here too. And then as we get into here, we're going to have 3 sections of black, and then by the time we get to this one down here, we'll be back to just 1 section of black. So we're going to want to separate and have bobbins. So we're going to have bobbin work for this section, but it's not a very big section and it's very basic. As we do the pinks, we'll do the same as the blue and have two separate bits. As you can see, the blue is going to overlap here. So you will, for a small portion here, you're going to have 4 bobbins of blue, but it's very little blue. So what I actually did on this one already is I cut more than I thought I did. I cut a strip, so I can wrap that up. I could do a butterfly bobbin, or I can just leave it hang. It's up to you how you want to do it. If you have little thread bobbins, you can do that too. I have those and I do not use them that much. They tend to kind of annoy me. I would rather do little bobbins like this. And just let them hang, and then you just pull it out from the center. So you will want a few different bobbins of color as we work this. I'm going to work for a little way, and then I will come back and show you how it's looking. Okay, make sure that you always drop your bobbins on the wrong side. So no matter which side you're working on, make sure the bobbins are always dropped on the wrong side, so you don't have any crosses on the front of your work. And here we are with our work now. We are 2 rows into the black. So you can see how this is depressing in. So it's giving the effect that I was hoping for, which I'm really happy about. So it'll be really exciting to see how the whole thing comes out. One thing I did realize, where I had added an extra row on, this end, because I had done that, that meant when I changed colors here, I was going to be on the wrong side, which would not work. So I actually did 2 of these rows to make up for that. But if I were to do this again, or if you are making this, I would just add an extra row of white here, or just do it the way I had it, because as you are coming back and purling, the issue that I thought I was going to have there, you shouldn't have. But so I would either work 2 extra rows of white here, or just do the 1 row and go from there, with the first one being a pearl. But that being said, that extra row of white, this is your normal white row, this is your one with your extra 2 rows, which does not look bad. And to be perfectly honest, I kind of like that extra row right there. If you look at the sandworm and compare that, I kind of like the way that looks. So I'm going to continue work and see how this comes out, and I'll be back with you in a bit. So I just thought I would show you where I'm at right now. I have just started the inner mouth, and in this next row I will add in the final color with the little red dots. So I'm about to start this row that has the little red dots in it, and it does look like a bit much back here right now, but you only have so many more rows to go. I mean, let's see, we've got, once we hit this point here, we won't have that extra blue, and you know, we start dropping. Once we get out here, we lose that extra black. We'll just have black here. It's just looking forward, just that much more, and then you're done. But so far I am really liking how it's coming out. Make sure and remember, when you switch your yarn colors, that you twist your yarn, which will give you this, it gives you this little look here. But by doing that, you don't end up with that. So I forgot on that 1 row to twist the yarn, but luckily it's right where I had picked up a new yarn. So when I go to weave that yarn in, I'll just pull it over and cinch that up. So yes, we do have a lot of ends to weave in this project, but I still think it's going to be worth it. I can't wait to see it finished. So I'm going to keep going, and I'll see you back in a bit. Okay, so I kind of made a mistake. And now I'm like, okay, I need to pull rows out, because this section here in the inner side of this mouth, I should have switched back to garter stitch, and I've started doing stockinette stitch. So with the color work, it's a pain in the booty, but I think I'm still going to pull back because it's not going to give the look that I'm wanting. So I need to pull back to, I think, this row would have been knit, so I need to pull back so that this one is getting purl bumps right here. But I don't need to pull that whole row out, I just need to go to there. So that's what I'm going to do now, is frog. Okay, that's a bit of a mess, but I'm back to where I was. So I'm actually now on that return pass. So this next section right here, excuse my messy mess, this next section right here is going to be knit. So just this center section is being knit. And some of my things are twisted. Not surprising. And then we'll pull back again so that we can continue to purl on the next set of stitches. And continue across just as we've been doing. It's just that I was not paying attention to what I was doing in that whole centerpiece, and I want that relief style look, and I will not get it if I don't do those stitches that way. So remember, don't do as I do. Remember, when you are in that center section here, that this is all going to be garter stitch. It's the only part that is being knit is literally this section is going to be in stockinette. So all this is garter and all this back here is garter. So I'm going to continue, try and catch back up with myself. Okay, now I'm back to where I was before I had to pull all that out, and you can see that difference. Oops, sorry, shaking. You can see that difference now where that pops out, and I like the way that looks better. So I'm going to continue working, remembering to switch that. I am now all the way to the edge. So this part here is in stockinette stitch, but this part is becoming garter stitch in the center. So this will continue being stockinette stitch as I work out, but this center is going to increase. So this center is going to keep increasing, and this part's the stockinette stitch. And then once I get to here, it'll just be the straight garter stitch again. So I want to keep going, keep following my chart, and I'll see you back in a bit. Okay, so here is the back of the work. We've got lots of ends to weave in, and here's the front. So this section is all done. I'm back onto the stripes, and I really like how it has turned out. It has given me that look that I was wanting, that relief look. I think it looks really nice. But now we need to add our eyes in so we can actually see our sandworms. So I have lots of buttons here, and between the sound of the buttons and my husband watching TV in the next room, I decided that this section needed to be voiced over. So hopefully I don't forget anything that I was originally saying. But I have a whole bunch of red buttons, a whole bunch of yellow buttons. The main eye on this striped sandworm is red with a tiny yellow dot. and on the small sandworm is yellow with a tiny red dot. Red dot? Yeah. So with all these buttons I have, I'm actually having a little bit of trouble finding the right red one. This one looks seriously cool, but I would need to paint the center section white because it's a shank button. And I want a large button for that large eye. That one's kind of cool, but not quite right for what we're doing. Now I think this button that we already have is going to end up being the best one to use. I could flip a button and use the back side, and I have done that before on other things, but I think for this one is going to probably work the best. And we got a shimmery yellow one, which could be fun to use. So the red eye needs to go right here on the white section. So that white or white stripe actually works nicely with the size button that I have. And then we need to do a red center on that yellow. I look for a little bit to see if I can find a different yellow, but in the end, I like the shimmery yellow one. So I've got some little red shank buttons that I could use as the red dot on the yellow button. Got a few different ones that I look at here. And those ones are just a little bit big, I think. And just not quite right. But then I find this one. It's kind of a darker red, and it looks really cool. It's like perfect for the eye. So I double checked to see if I have anything else, but I think, well, actually I know because I've already completed it, that I'm going to settle on this selection. I thought about trying to put another button over the red one, but I don't have a little yellow shank. I really needed a little yellow shank to be able to do that. So I'm just going to end up using the yellow yarn for the yellow spot, because the yellow spot is actually really small in the eye. So I'm just going to use a little bit of yellow yarn, and I'll stitch it on with that, and that will be my yellow spot in the middle of the red eye. Which is what I'm explaining now. So now we can, yeah, that one would have looked really cool, but just not quite right. That one's about the same size. And that's actually the one I think I end up going with because it has a little bit of a concaved shape outwardly and a little line inside, so it kind of gives a little bit more of an eyeball shape, which ends up working out really well. So you can see here the big red eye with the tiny yellow dot and how it kind of has a curved out, domed out shape, which that one button will actually do nicely with the yellow yarn, I think. And then on the other worm, the smaller worm with the yellow eye, you can see it's got a larger red eyeball, pupil, but it's also darker. It's a darker red. So that darker button, I think, is going to work really nicely for that. I think that one will work well. So we'll put the other buttons away and we can go ahead and get our eyes sewn on. So I'm going to start with the red eye and the yellow yarn, and then we'll do the shank eye with the yellow button. And get my needle out. I have to make sure that the needle eye is going to be small enough to go through the holes of the button. You don't want that eye to be too big. I know that one's going to be too big. So this one is the smaller one I usually use with buttons and beads and things. So that fits in that one, but doesn't quite fit in that one. So we're going to have to do something different with that one, but it does go through that one. So we can go ahead and sew on the two larger buttons with the yarn. And I do this with this tiny eye. I learned this from my mom. You just push the yarn right over the eye. And of course this is really blurry, so you have trouble seeing it, but then it'll, if you hold that, pinch that real tight, you can push it right into the eye, and then you can go ahead and grab it and be able to pull all that through. So I can't remember. I guess it looks like I was going to sew the, am I sewing that? Which one am I sewing on first? I don't know which one I'm sewing on first. I can't remember. I guess we'll find out together. And I think I was looking at the computer here, trying to judge by looking at the image exactly where they needed to go, and that was where I finally decided they should go. So it looks like I'm doing the yellow one first, and I'm just going to push that right up through the buttonhole, and I don't want to do too many going through this because the thick yarn will fill that hole up much quicker. So I'm only going to do one pass on this button, and then the thread I use for the shank button will also be going through this. So then I can just go ahead and, unfortunately I pulled my needle out, which I did not need to do at that point, but then I can tie that off, and see, now I have to thread the needle again. But now you can see it not all blurry. Pinched it through, push on it, and it goes through. Grab that little tiny bit, and there you go. I guess I had a feeling I was going to end up doing that blurry and not realizing it. So now I'm just going to do the same thing I had done on the other one, leave myself a tail and go through. But on this one, I'm going to actually go through a few times to try and build up a little bit of yarn for that eyeball look that I'm going for. So I think I go through it 3 times, maybe 4. I go through it as long as it lets me go through it. So we go a few more times here, and it was getting a little tight there, so that might be the, do I do one more? I think I end up doing one more. Yep, I did one more. So I end up doing a total of 4 passes. Yeah, see, this one was a bit tight. I should have stopped at 3, but I made it through the 4th, and it looks good. So now I can take the yarn off the needle. So there's our 2 eyes positioned, and now we just need to get the shank one on, but I need to go get some different thread so that I can do that. I just get some regular sewing thread and a regular needle. It's actually a little case my mom made with some scrap fabric years and years ago, and she used to keep that in her little sewing kit. So this needle just fits through the button. So I'm going to fasten it off right here. in the back. And then bring it up through the button. And then bringing it through this button. And then going back down into the other hole. And that is going to give us our little eyeball, and I'm going to go back through this a couple times to try and keep it from being overly floppy, because I know that's going to happen some just because of the putting a shank button on top of a flat button. So the more I can go through it, then hopefully the more it will hold it still. Go back down. Yep. No, don't want to do that. Come on. There we go. So yeah, that's going to keep it pretty still, I think. So then we're going to go ahead and fasten this off in the back. And I've caught a couple of yarns. Good job. Oh, well, I'm going to go ahead and fasten this off, and then I will deal with what I caught later. Okay. So there is our sandworm face. So when we don't have all these ends here, and it is around our neck, and this end kind of comes together, I think we should have a decent looking sandworm. So now we've worked about 11 inches here. We're going to work about another 11 inches, and then we will come back and we will join it, and we will make sure all our ends are woven in, and we'll have a finished cowl. Okay, so I have gotten this completed. My ends are all woven in, and I left a tail when I bound off, and I made sure that that end was white since this end was black. So now I'm going to take, I'm going to take these two ends and bring them together like this and sew them up. And I'm just going to work back and forth, give myself some more light. Just going to pick up along here and then do the same thing on this side. And go back and forth, picking up a bar like that. And then picking up a bar here. And when you pull these down, they'll pull down nicely and you won't see your stitches. So we're just going to do that all the way down to the other end. So just continue like this all the way to the other end, all the way to here, and weave in your last tail and you are done, and I will show you the end result. Okay, so here is where the seam is, and it's nice and hidden. So here is our finished cowl, and it's hot right now, but I'm going to put it on. Sorry if I'm seeing, you know what, here. Oh, wrong way. Okay, there we go. There is our little sandworm cowl. Just kind of a fun little thing. You can finagle it until you have it looking the way you want. I'm trying to look at myself in the on the computer, which of course is in reverse, so that makes it hard as you're trying to do it. I mean, I achieved pretty much what I was trying to go for. It's just something kind of fun, and I can wear it for the movie. Any way you look at it, even if it was, even you could honestly just do the black and white, which could be fun. That could be fun too, and just, you know, still's got a nice Beetlejuicy theme. This is really hard looking at it backwards. I'm sure it's fun watching me finagle this, but here's my sandworm cowl. I hope you like it. I think it came out pretty cute. It's pretty much what I was going for. It might hang a little bit better if you put a little bit more length into it, where it could come down a little bit more, have more space here. But otherwise, I think the effect I was going for is there. So I hope you guys like it. If you do, click like, click subscribe if you'd like to see more. And I hope you enjoy the new Beetlejuice movie. I know I can't wait to go see it. So we'll see y'all again soon. Bye.